GamePoints with Matthew Ross, the name of the Facebook group. TSN Matthew on Twitter.com. But that music can only mean one thing, and it may not be familiar to people around these parts, but we looked it up, and we think we're accurate with it, so let's go with it. Up next here on the program, we'll start it off with a longtime MLB broadcaster, a very good one at that. We welcome in from Fox Sports South, where he does the Atlanta Braves games. You can follow him on Twitter.com as well, and we'll get to that a little bit later as well. It is Chip Caray. Hey, Chip, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you. I appreciate your time this evening. Now, I got to ask right off the bat, is this the first time you've been interviewed in Montreal?
I think so, yes. It's still one of my favorite places in the world to visit. Those of us who have been working in baseball for a long time really remember well our trips to Olympic Stadium, even back to Jerry Park when I got to see as a kid. But yeah, one of the great cities in the world, and those of us who love baseball and love the Expos and love the great rivalries that we had with them certainly miss coming up there, and hopefully someday in the not-too-distant future we'll get a chance to come back.
Now, you caught my eye on Twitter because I'm also involved with a grassroots initiative here called Expos Nation, and surprisingly, you follow it and occasionally attempt some French words back at us. And what in the world prompted you to do it? And by the way, pretty good job as well.
Well, thanks. I took French in high school, so that paid off. Mr. Estes was my French teacher back in St. Louis, Missouri. But no, I was always a fan of the city. I love the culture. I loved being able to go up there and practice my very poor language skills. But, Dave Van Horn is such a great broadcaster and a colleague of ours. We see him quite a bit down in Miami when our Braves games and Marlins games take place. And he talks very, very lovingly, quite obviously, of his time in Montreal. And, again, as a fan of the game, when you think about the players that the Expos organization produced for so many years, it's really, really mind-boggling. And in so many ways, unfortunate that there's not another team north of the border. And I think those of us, again, who enjoyed going to Montreal, enjoyed the friends and the fans and the family atmosphere that you'd see from time to time at Olympic Stadium, we all hope that somehow, some way, baseball can get back north of the border because it's such an international sport. Why not make it even more so by somehow getting back in Montreal? I think it'd be fantastic.
Now, your thoughts on the Blue Jays and Mets playing a couple of preseason games here at the end of next month, also coinciding with former Expo Warren Cromartie bringing in the many of the 1994 Expos for a gala and also to be involved in the pregame on Saturday, March 30th or 29th, I should say. Obviously, the 94 team, very near and dear to a lot of baseball fans that are still around here in Montreal, and
sure.
epic battle as well that year with the Braves.
Well, and that's I guess what again I can only imagine it's going to be probably a very bittersweet night because a lot of folks think that had the '94 season been played to its logical conclusion, that the Expos might have not only won the National League but might have won the entire World Series. And if that's the case, who knows how differently history might have been written as far as the stadium and the ownership and the franchise itself. And that's really, I'm sure, very, very unfortunate. But great franchise, great scouting. Fred Ferreira and the job he did and finding all the players that he did for that organization for so many years, just a remarkable, remarkable thing. And again, I hope it's a wonderful night for everybody up there. And as far as the game itself is concerned, my own personal opinion is if you want to see people around baseball stand up and take notice that there's still a very vibrant and very lively and very alive baseball community in that part of the world, the best way for that to happen is to show up. Show up for the games, make the turnstiles click, be loud, be supportive, wear your Expos gear, and the games are going to be televised in, as you said, Toronto and New York and probably all around the country as well in the United States. If people want to see that there's still passionate baseball people in Montreal, that's the best way to do it.
And I couldn't have said it any better. And in fact, we do think we're trending towards a couple of sellouts as well. So that's some good news.
Fantastic. That'd be great. That would really be great.
I'm wondering if you're aware, actually, it's kind of funny. A couple of weeks ago, the 94 Expos were honored at the Baseball Writers Association dinner in New York. And Marquise Grissom, former Brave, of course, was accepting on behalf of the group. And he turned to Bobby Cox and said he gets asked all the time how the potential of that 94 team had they stayed together. And he looked at Bobby and he said that we would have won in 94, 95, 96, 97, 98. So that was kind of a fun moment. Maybe we'll send you that link.
and again, that's the great unknown, and that's the most unfortunate thing. Again, watching from the outside, not being an Expos employee or an Expos fan, so to speak, but with Marquise Grissom and Larry Walker and Mark Rudzolanek and Tim Wallach and on you go, Gary Carter. I mean, the great Larry Walker. I mean, Moises Alou. There's a pretty good chance that the Expos could have been a great dynasty. They've won before, in the Steve Rogers days. I watched them as a Cardinal fan back when they were awfully tough to beat back in those days, too. So, again, you can't go back and rewrite history, but you can certainly sit back and fantasize about what might have been. And if nothing else, the fans of the organization have a lot to be proud of in what they accomplished as far as getting talent to the big leagues and putting a big-time scare in the Braves. And Marquise is right. Had that team stayed together, had they played the World Series, the great Braves dynasty that we're so proud of in Atlanta might never have taken place to the extent it did.
Chatting with Chip Caray, of course, broadcaster with the Braves. Now, Chip, what is the deal with your Twitter? I got to know the significance of Capaya1234 as your handle.
There's really no significance to it. I am as computer illiterate as they come, and my kids and I were just playing around on the computer, and that's the first thing that came up, and I said, fine, go with it. So, I'm not really super technologically savvy, so I just said, that's the first thing that came up. I will always remember that, so that's what we went with.
Now, obviously, a very interesting year for the Braves this year, and certainly, or I should say last year now, as we're getting closer to the 2014 season. And they're starting to jockey, obviously, to get this thing ready to compete with some of the likes of the Cardinals and the other teams. Your thoughts on the Freddie Freeman news and how integral he is to this team?
Well, I think it's a great story for Braves fans and for the Braves organization. We are owned by Liberty Media. They are absentee ownership, very good ownership. I want to be clear about that, but they are absentee ownership. And there's a perception in Atlanta, and I think around Braves country, that they aren't really as willing to open the wallet as Ted Turner was when he owned the ball club. The Braves operate with a very strict and very sensible payroll. They keep it between $90 and $100 million. They feel that's more than enough to be competitive and get in the playoffs. And I think if you look back at the history of the game since the start of divisional play, the team with the best record in baseball has won the World Series, I think, only 19 times since 1969. So the playoff situation is really a crapshoot once you get there. And to the Braves' credit, they have an organizational philosophy that talks about development like the Expos did. They develop and draft young players, young high school pitchers, nurture them, get them to the big leagues, and hope that they can gel at the very, very same time and be successful for a long time. And that's certainly the case with Freddie Freeman and Jason Hayward, two of the cornerstones of the franchise. Both of them were ticketed for arbitration. Both of them signed multi-year contracts. In the case of Freeman, an 8-year deal, $135 million U.S., is the largest contract ever given out by the Atlanta Braves. But they believe in Freddie Freeman. They have a guy that could maybe win a batting title, is going to hit 20 to 25 home runs, drive in 100 runs a year, and play a Gold Glove caliber first base. What's not to like about that if you're a Braves fan? So
sure.
Ownership opened the wallet. They've got a young player that they can build around, and when they move into the new ballpark, they figure the revenue streams will take care of themselves.
And your thoughts on the outlook for 2014? Are they a better team than last year?
Well, it's going to be tough to be better. I mean, they won 96 games
yeah.
And won the division in pretty good shape. The Nationals have improved. The Mets have improved. The Marlins have improved. I think it's going to be a dogfight in the East again, 3-4 team race. And if the Braves can get off to a good start like they did last year, I think the sky's the limit for them. And we'll find out early. We open in Milwaukee and then go right to Washington for their home opener the first weekend of the season. So it'll be a great bellwether series to get the month of April going.
Final question for you, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about it. Your grandfather, of course, the legendary Harry Caray, and amazing how people still talk about him today, whether it's obviously even in caricature or just how beloved he is, certainly in the city of Chicago and prior to that elsewhere as well. Why do you think that is? What do you think the connection is to your grandfather still to this day?
I didn't know him particularly well growing up, which is a story I could spend hours telling you about. But I think from the fans' perspective, the fans that I've talked to felt that he connected with them. Harry always said that he wasn't broadcasting the game for the players. He wasn't broadcasting the game for the TV executives. He wasn't broadcasting the games for the owners. He was broadcasting the game for the fans, and he felt like the fans did watching the game. And I think, unfortunately, in today's era of broadcasting, the manila envelope style is what is in vogue. And I really think it would be very hard for people like Harry Caray or Ernie Harwell or Bob Murphy to be hired today because they have such strong personalities and such great passion for the product that the game was entertainment, and they wanted their team to win every single time. And if a guy made a great play, they said so. If a guy made a boneheaded play, they said so. And I think that really resonated with the people who are paying the bills and watching the games on cable. So it was like sitting around with your crazy uncle or your crazy grandfather, having a good time, talking about pretty girls, beer, and baseball. And there really wasn't anybody, I think, who did it better than my grandfather, and I'm awfully proud of that.
Thank you so much for spending some time with us. That's Chip Caray from the Atlanta Braves, Fox Sports South. Kapaya1234 on Twitter. Very engaging on Twitter. Chip really interacts with people out there, so give him a follow. Thank you so much, and enjoy the season.
You're very kind. Good luck with the series, and let's get baseball back in Montreal. I'll do what I can to help.
Thanks so much.